I have so much trouble looking forward to the prospects of continued content in a game that like has trouble holding a rock solid 60 FPS on medium settings on my computer. You know, like it's like, well, I mean, come on, like, what are we doing here? I think that the way they could have done the cuts to the companion character and had it actually look reasonable is if you held the shot on the main character that they're talking to, but then if the companion chimes in, have the main character step back a little and look over at the companion character who's talking to that character, and then if they're talking, you're still locked into the conversation, but you've been given a wider angle because now there's two, because that's what you would do. You would step back and let the other person talk. Like, you know, you would step aside if the person behind you was talking, and they'd be like, okay, now it's a three-way conversation, as opposed to just looking dead on. Or you just keep looking the person in the eye and have the companion talk and just hear them. What's weird when they cut it to make it so that it looks like the companion's looking at you is it seems like they're telling you a secret. Like, are we having a little aside here, or is this guy hearing what you're saying? I don't know that's abundantly clear. But I mean, yeah, like Baldur's Gate 3 does it better as far as the cinematic presentation of RPG content goes. At the same time, I don't think this game would be well served by a reverse shot to a main character, because that didn't really work for Fallout 4 very well.
I gave the order to abandon ship, and the crew piled into the escape shuttle. As the shuttle launched, I could see it was damaged. I heard screams before the radio cut, and last thing I saw, they were spiraling helplessly towards the planet's surface. There was nothing I could do.
Yeah, Sarah is on the annoying side, but this is a pretty heartbreaking story, really. Like this wasn't one of her annoying ones. My condolences to your crew.
Thank you. But condolences can't reverse what I've done.
I mean, it's all I can offer,
I was
though.
caught up in the moment. An inexperienced captain making rash decisions that cost people their lives.
I mean, life of an officer, really. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I said, more or less.
The United Colonies gave me a medal. Can you believe that? A damn medal.
Did they give you
I never even had a chance
PTSD
to
counseling?
find the shuttle wreckage and give my crew a proper burial.
Okay, well, at least that sounds like an okay quest. But realistically, she's got survivor's guilt. That's exactly what that is. And I mean, Bender, like, I'm assuming that was a joke, but yeah, I think it's not just ladies. It'd be everyone that's in a situation like that. If you make choices that end up getting a whole bunch of people killed as an officer in a military, that's honestly, it's the most crippling way that officers can experience PTSD, really, because they don't even necessarily have to be there for it. It's like, oh no, me signing my name at the bottom of that order got all of these people killed, and ultimately you've kind of gotta. You've got to parse that from your ability to know that.
Or something?
Yes, I am actually, Sarah. Thank you. I'm kind of defending you too. Wow, but Sarah still deserves a bit of defense here because yeah, survivor's guilt can be rough. I mean, I guess I do have some of it, not a lot. I've never been an officer being the one like making the call. It's more like had I done this better, then that would have gone better type things. It can be difficult to be the one who makes it out of a situation, you know, and not that I've never been in a situation where I'm the one that has made it out when everyone else has died, like nothing like that. I'm talking more, hey, someone got hurt because not because of me, but like had I done this person would have healed better or not been as hurt as they were, and maybe I could have done something to. And what I'm trying to get at is that question, the what could I have done better, is kind of what will destroy you. So you've got to, that it's why on your end, on the personal accountability and responsibility end, it's why you need to be good at what you do. It really is kind of the point. Like, it's why working hard, studying, knowing your craft, knowing your trade, knowing your job, when other people's lives could be on the line, that's the reason. So that not so that no one will ever die, because that's never going to happen if you're working EMS or military medicine.
Hello?
Hello, Sarah. Give me a moment, please. But EMS, anything, even just infantry, like, or police work, like, really anything where your actions can result in someone else getting hurt or dying, that's the reason why you need to take it very seriously if you're in that kind of work. I'm just saying that, like, as far as this little story goes, I think it is the kind of thing that I think writing a person with this experience in the game is probably pretty solid, especially if you're bringing up as this researcher or a person who's the head of your research company, your NASA, was a former military captain who was a medal winner, but she doesn't view it as like, I didn't do anything heroic. I failed. I got too many of my crew died for you to say that I did well. And ultimately, I think you just have to, the best way to deal with that is take your congratulations, take your thank you for your services, and be humble about it and kind, and then you can manage that guilt better because
you're awfully quiet.
No, I'm not, Sarah. I'm talking to other people. I know it's a little weird because we're in a pretty serious conversation. I will give you that. But I'm trying to tell them about stuff. All I'm saying is that I think that's why everybody should take their work very seriously and become good at your work. If you don't feel like you're good at what you do, then make it your mission to get better at it, and understand that understand that it can be very important, not just for other people, but even if you want to look at it selfishly, it will save you a lot of grief later down the road, because you won't be doubting your own skill in the situations that had more dire consequences. I guess is probably the point of what I'm trying to say. I've said on another stream, my points kind of come in the form of a funnel, where I feel like I have to start at the outer ring and then get my way down to the bottom of the funnel where the point is. But yeah, survivor's guilt, not a cool thing to have to deal with, and I feel sorry.
You okay?
I feel sorry for Sarah in this situation, and I feel sorry for her for having to go through it, because it can be pretty rough. Did you guys hear the thing about this being fake water physics? I thought that was hilarious. It's like, you don't actually get wet. The water doesn't come out with you. This game is fake. I'm like, dude, of all things to complain about, Lucas, like, that doesn't matter at all. Come on. Like, does it really matter if you jump in here and then jump out here and walk around, you don't see like watery footprints? Does that change the game in any tangible way, or is that sort of a bullshit graphics horror thing, you know? I mean, it's just, it doesn't really matter. And there's people that are posting these things on Twitter as if they're like, oh man, this is why PlayStation's better. I'm like, dude, like, gives a hey, I wanted to intimidate a bad person in a game so I didn't have to kill him. And this is a role-playing game, and I should have been given that option. That is a much better criticism than there's no water physics, so it's a bad game. So, water physics, man. If I'm not using a watercraft in the game, like, you know where water physics mattered and were a big deal? Wave Race 64, when that came out. I remember that being huge because everyone was like, wow, the wave runner that you're on actually really looks like it's moving the way it would in real water. And a lot of people were very impressed by that. And you know what? As much as I hate the N64 in general, pretty good water physics in Wave Race, you know? They seemed like they really had an impact on gameplay. And I remember being very happy when similar water physics showed up in Crash Bandicoot Warped, which is the best Crash Bandicoot game, by the way. Don't let anyone tell you Wrath of Cortex Warp's the better one. Fringy. I'm kidding. He probably knows more about that series than I do, so he'd have a better argument, but I liked Warped quite a lot. In the Outer Worlds, Parvati, I think Parvati is the only woman who has long hair. Like, I think every single other one, quite literally, like NPCs included, have the kind of like short, spiky haircut. That was to the point that it was distracting, I would say. And I still think Outer Worlds is not bad. I think it's worth playing. I do think Starfield is better. I didn't expect to say that either. Like my original call, like my Babe Ruth point into center field, or right field, I guess, moment was when Outer Worlds got announced. Starfield had already been announced, and I was like, oh man, Obsidian just already made Space Fallout, and it's going to be out this year, and Starfield might be in 3 years or something. So that means we got the new Vegas of Space Fallout, and we're going to be waiting on the Fallout 3 of Space Fallout. I was incorrect. Starfield, at least so far, better than the Outer Worlds, I think, by a fairly significant margin. Things like shooting mechanics are better. The dialogue trees seem more in depth. Even the oddly... what's the way to say this that's not controversial? Politically tilted dialogue is less heavy-handed in Starfield than it is in Outer Worlds, because in Outer Worlds I think they were kind of trying to make it more of a Borderlands-y take, where it's like Outer Worlds is a bit funnier, and I think that resulted in Obsidian not really playing to their strengths, which I think is writing very compelling, more serious quest lines. There's always been macabre comedy in Fallout. I don't think it's a hot take to say Fallout takes itself a little bit more seriously than Borderlands does, right? And I think that Outer Worlds is just a little bit closer to the Borderlands end of that spectrum as far as tone goes. And I think that resulted in a lot of the cringe dialogue sounding much more cringe. Whereas here, it happens from time to time, but for the most part, interacting like, I mean, Juan being a decent example. Yeah, she seems like the captain of a smuggler ship that they look like they were mafia of some stripe and like gangsters, and then they decided to become legit transport vessel operators, and they also do a little bit of crime still. I don't think any of that is that crazy as far as premise goes. It's not like she's like, yes, and we do all of these crimes because we're trying to feed the innocent children on this planet over here who are being crushed by the capitalist regime and corporations. It's like, okay, all right, calm down. It's like, yes, maybe that is the lore of this world, sure. I mean, and it could be, and I don't even think it's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, realistically, that's what Cyberpunk is entirely about. Just ultra-capitalist corporations have just become so powerful that they're like governments with their own militaries and whatnot, and now they're the superpowers in the world. Even that is not crazy out of this world. We could be in the, can imagine like Militech and stuff. It's not that, it's just Google and Apple and Amazon that are running the cyberpunk dystopia. But I guess I'm kind of getting trailed off. But what I mean is, you can have that content in the game, but it's not seeping into the writing of the standard dialogue. She's not been telling me about the plight of her people. She's only been talking about her job, what she does, how we're going to be interacting with each other during her job. Whereas in the Outer Worlds, this far into talking to the person, and you guys were on this stream is where I met Juan. So I've not spoken to her at any point prior to this, and the amount of time I've spent with her now in the Outer Worlds, I would have been getting a fair amount of heavy-handed political jokes that landed sometimes, but not enough that I'm like, yeah, you really need to play the Outer Worlds. I'm like, yeah, you should play Fallout New Vegas. You know, that's a great Obsidian game. Play Knights of the Old Republic 2. Also Obsidian. I don't think it's like not worth playing at all.
I need to get those defensive batteries online.
It's pretty
so
good.
Make
It's
this
not
fast.
as good as Baldur's Gate 3. Honestly, I don't think it's quite as good as Cyberpunk 2077. But I like the combat in Cyberpunk, and you're doing a lot more of it. And honestly, Cyberpunk's probably closer to Far Cry than it is to a full-blown RPG like this. It's just got a bit of the Bethesda-style cinematic RPG elements in it, with very specific branching paths for the most part. So there are branching paths, and you can change your outcomes with certain factions and certain people, but it's fairly structured and is kind of more like choose your own adventure as opposed to actual role-playing game, which this is much closer to, but not nearly as close to as Baldur's Gate 3, where even though the scope isn't nearly as wide, it's much more focused.
I've had better conversations with robots.
You've got a lot more flexibility to actually move within that story framework with your choices in Baldur's Gate. Whereas here, I find myself running, and it's only, I'm not saying I've expressed every option in either, and hey, maybe Baldur's Gate 3 is just written with the options in mind for a player like me specifically more, whereas this seems like I am more frequently running into, no, but you can't do that as far as the RPG stuff goes, which, hey, we found out with the pickpocketing, that's my fault because I didn't take that perk when I could have. I think I had seen it before, and I was actually kind of looking around for it to see if there was one, but I might have been able to pick that key card, not had to betray Juan, and then done it the way I would have actually wanted to do it, as opposed to the way like I felt like I had to do it. That is to be taken into consideration as well. But there's a good video game here. It's not perfect, not even close. And it definitely does not have the No Man's Sky scope, but with Bethesda storytelling in it. It is much more specific. It is very much Fallout in space. Just their space combat and no VATS targeting. So they have to rely a lot more on the real-time combat not being crap, which they mostly get okay. It's not terrible combat. The enemy AI is beyond dumb to the point that I almost think they should throw more of them at you. They should be much easier to kill and come at you in waves. So I don't love this aspect of the game. Exploring places and scanning things that sometimes scan and sometimes don't. Not the best thing that Starfield has to offer. I do like the sense of scope that the levels had. I wish I had a vehicle though, or I wish I could fly in atmosphere. I think it's ridiculous that you can't fly in atmosphere. I understand why you can't. I get it, because the creation engine just would not be able to handle you moving that fast. Though, I mean, you know, you get dragons in Skyrim eventually. And so, you know, like, it's not like it can't render things relatively quick. I mean, granted, it was after, like, a couple expansions. But still, you can ride a dragon around Skyrim. It is a thing that happens. So why can't I fly my ship in Starfield on the planets? Is it just because you'd never be able to explain how slow you'd have to make it go? Like, I mean, you could, though. You could just say in atmosphere flight, there's like interplanetary regulations that say you can only go certain speeds, or you risk it destabilizing the atmosphere or something like that. And that could be the reason why you can only go that fast, so that the creation engine doesn't have to run all of that. See that mountain over there? You can go there, but if you go there too fast, our engine explodes. You know what I mean? Like, there's horses in Skyrim too. Give me a buggy or a motorcycle. You know? Like, if you had a space motorcycle, this would be all right. But right now, this is just like way more boring Death Stranding. I'm sorry. Like, as far as like what I'm doing in the game right now, I'm not saying the game as a whole, but if you think Death Stranding is boring, but you like the exploration in Starfield, I'm sorry, but you're insane. I don't know what to tell you, but you're a crazy person. You should seek help. But no, I still like you though, don't worry. And I do hope you get that help. I've not played much No Man's Sky. You'd have to ask X-Ray Girl that. I've played a lot of Bethesda games, so I'm more an expert on that than I am on No Man's Sky. In fact, I would assuredly say that. I've played every Bethesda game Studios released since Morrowind. Oh, no, like after Morrowind. So since Oblivion, the oldest one that I've not played is Morrowind, and everything before that. Because, yeah, let's face it, if I've not tried Morrowind yet, I'm probably not going to pick up Daggerfall. I would, it's just I can't rationalize the time in it, considering the interest I have in Elder Scrolls in general, which is like minimal, really. I would go as far as to say minimal. Minimal might not be moderate, I guess. As minimal as it can be as a person for a person who loved Oblivion and quite liked Skyrim. And I think I prefer Fallout to Elder Scrolls in general. But I think it's just the aesthetic of Fallout. I think I just like the world. And I like VATS. I think VATS kind of makes it feel more turn-based, and I kind of dig that. Whereas the Elder Scrolls game seems like not fantastic, but good, like good enough first-person combat. And Fallout feels kind of more like an RPG sometimes, and I like that, which is why I don't know, like Starfield. I'm still very mixed on this game. I don't know really what. I don't have my thoughts on it finalized, but I did really like that space pirate undercover mission. I hate that I can't use my items with the scanner up. Like, I get not being able to fire a weapon or have a weapon drawn, and only being able to fire the, you know, laser thing.
Ready when you are.
Like, I guess this kind of seems like what I know No Man's Sky is sort of like. But this, I suppose, is not nearly as good as No Man's Sky. Because in No Man's Sky, you can hop in vehicles and mechs and stuff and fly around. Because I hear you can never do that in this game. I don't know for sure. And for all I know, they'll patch it in by the time I get to where you're supposed to be able to do it.